You got in your car this morning, turned a key, pressed a pedal, and moved 40 miles an hour without using a single muscle. Now you can fly across the planet in a day, and you probably only get annoyed if the Wi-Fi is slow or your rideshare takes 5 minutes instead of 4. 100,000 years ago, that exact same 40-mile trip would have taken 2 full days. You would be walking barefoot through territory that could easily kill you, with no road, no path, and no sign telling you what's ahead. For roughly 300,000 years, every single journey a human being ever took happened at walking speed. Not one severe physical limitation shaped everything about how we lived, what we ate, who we married, and how much of the earth we ever actually got to see. We take this effortless movement for granted, but our modern experience of the world is built on a series of victories over the absolute physical limits of distance, water, and weight. When it comes to covering distance, humans are strictly not built to be fast. A cheetah hits 70 miles per hour, and a horse can sustain 30. We top out at maybe 15, and only for a few seconds before we're gasping for air. But speed was never our biological advantage. We are built to never stop. This animated diagram shows exactly why. Look at the thermal comparison. While every other large mammal on the savanna relies on panting and quickly overheats on a long run, you have roughly 2 million sweat glands constantly cooling you down. You can walk 20 miles in a day, sleep, and do it again tomorrow, for weeks. Look closer at the human leg structure. Your feet have arches that act as literal springs, and your Achilles tendon stores and releases kinetic energy with every step. Your muscles don't actually carry the full load of your movement. That specific mechanical trait is extremely old. In 1978, paleoanthropologist Mary Leakey found these exact plaster casts, the Laetoli footprints. They were pressed into volcanic ash 3.6 million years ago by 2 individuals walking upright, side by side. For millions of years, that was the only transportation technology we had. Starting roughly 70,000 years ago, early humans used that endurance to walk out of Africa. Archaeologists have found obsidian tools hundreds of miles from the nearest volcanic source, and shells traded far inland across mountain ranges. People were covering massive distances on purpose, to trade, share information, and connect. Our biology made us the ultimate walkers, capable of crossing entire continents. But walking only works until something gets in the way. For hundreds of thousands of years, a river or an ocean was a physical wall. You either found a shallow place to cross, or you turned around. Bodies of water cut through every migration route and hunting ground on Earth. Overcoming them meant figuring out something no other land animal ever has: how to cross deep water on purpose. In 2003, archaeologists found stone tools on the island of Flores in Indonesia, dating back roughly 800,000 years. Even during the lowest sea levels of the ice ages, Flores always had at least 12 miles of open ocean between it and the mainland. Whatever they floated on has long since rotted away, but those tools prove someone made that crossing and survived. Then, around 65,000 years ago, early humans crossed from Southeast Asia to Australia. That required sailing across at least 60 miles of open ocean. You cannot see Australia from the other side. Someone built a float, pointed it toward water they couldn't see across, and paddled away from solid ground. The absolute peak of this navigational genius happened roughly 3,000 years ago. The Polynesians built double-hulled canoes like this one, loaded them with families and livestock, and sailed thousands of miles across the Pacific. They did this without compasses or maps, relying entirely on observing the stars, the direction of ocean swells, and the flight paths of birds. Boats allowed us to reach entirely new land masses. But once we got back onto solid ground, we hit a completely different physical wall. We were sharply limited by the amount of weight we could physically move. Walking 20 miles is one thing, but hauling a 200-pound animal carcass over that same distance is another. The human body struggles to carry more than 40 to 60 pounds before it begins to break down. For most of our history, this physical limit on cargo dictated how we managed our resources. To bypass that limit, humans developed the travois. It's a V-shaped wooden frame with a platform slung between 2 poles. You drag the narrow end, and the wide end carries the load, spreading the weight out so one person can pull over 100 pounds. Because it was made of wood and leather, almost none have survived for archaeologists to find. But it allowed us to pull what we couldn't carry. The real breakthrough was finding a way to borrow muscle. Around 15,000 years ago, we partnered with dogs. In the Arctic, dog sled teams like the one seen here were put to work hauling cargo across the ice. A team of 6 dogs could pull an entire family's camp. About 5,500 years ago, on the steppes of modern-day Kazakhstan, the Botai people integrated horses into their lives. Archaeologists found bit marks on ancient horse teeth and traces of mare's milk inside pottery. These groups were riding and milking these animals, controlling their power for the first time. Look at this map comparing daily travel radii. For hundreds of thousands of years, our maximum speed was a 4-mile-an-hour walk. Once we sat on a horse, we could hit 30 miles an hour. In a single generation, our travel radius expanded by a factor of 8. We could cover in days what used to take weeks. By partnering with animals, humanity effectively bypassed our biological limits on weight and speed. We had the endurance, the navigation, and the muscle. All we needed was the final multiplier: engineering. Here is one of the strangest facts about human history. Our ancestors crossed the world's oceans and tamed wild horses millennia before anyone invented the wheel. The oldest known wheel dates back just 5,200 years. It didn't even begin as a transportation tool. The first wheels were flat, spinning discs used to shape clay for pottery. Eventually, someone turned that disc on its side and put a platform on top. But early solid wood wheels were tremendously heavy. They cracked on rough ground and bogged down in the mud. Around 2000 BC, someone developed the spoked wheel. It was lighter, far stronger, and vastly faster. Hooked up to a horse, it gave us the chariot, a vehicle that finally offered high speed and heavy cargo capacity at the same time. Integrating wheels, horses, and paved roads created the infrastructure required to manage empires. These systems allowed for the movement of armies and goods across hundreds of miles, stabilizing the large-scale societies reflected in these Mesopotamian ruins. These ancient networks scaled up over centuries, culminating in the mechanized concrete infrastructure of the 20th century. Look at this highway footage from the 1950s. By engineering cars, trains, and planes, we effectively turned distance into a solved problem. We solved the problem of frictions so thoroughly that we forgot it was ever a problem. But every airport, highway, and set of train tracks exists because 300,000 years ago, someone looked at an impossible horizon and started walking anyway.